Discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Fat Nasty Nerd Run-Throughs, and this time we are going to be doing how to play of Dark Souls. I almost thought about not doing this because of but I thought, well, the rulebook isn't the best, so maybe I can do a better job explaining how to play. So, one thing, I am very limited on table space at the moment because, yay, delays on getting my new table. But I think I can make do and still show you how to play. So the first thing we're going to go to is setup. Okay, so the game is going to come with about 6 tiles. Well, the game actually comes with, I think, 9 tiles. It comes with 9 tiles, one of which is the bonfire tile. So this is basically, let me remove a couple things. This is what the bonfire tile looks like. You can tell that there's the bonfire, there's the blacksmith, there's the firekeeper, and this area right here is your soul cache. So all the souls that you'll collect throughout the game will go right here because the party spends it as a group, not individually. And then this right here is your inventory, all the items that you don't have equipped and things that you've collected over the years. Over time will go in here, and this is going to be the treasure stack. So what you're going to do is you are going to line it up as best as possible, and out of the remaining 8, you're going to locate these 2 tiles, one of which will have this symbol right here, just the skull, and then another one is going to have another one right in the middle. So this is actually the mini boss tile. You're going to set that off because this is where you're going to fight the mini boss, and then this one is for the main boss, which you will combine both of these to make one big room to fight the main boss. So you will set those aside. Now, out of the remaining 6 that you have, you actually will choose 4 of them. They are double-sided, and you will line them up really in any way that you want. I kind of have it here, one that's limited to my table space, and then so you can make pretty much any kind of map that you want. The only criteria is that the doorways, which are these gray lines here, have to align with the other doorways. And then, so you can go back and forth. Each tile is an encounter in and of itself, so whenever you set it up, make sure that you are able to get to all of them. Next, and at the furthest tile from the bonfire tile, I'm going to kind of scoot this up, there is going to be this token right here. This is the fog token. You will place that in a doorway as far from the bonfire tile as you can, because you're going to want to make encounters to gather souls along the way. Then you will, depending on the number of players, you will take this. This is your spark dial, and it ranges from 5 all the way down to 0. So this is basically how many times you get to rest and how many redos you get to do if you lose an encounter. So in a 1-player game, which is kind of how I have it set up, there are 2 things that you'll do. This dial will be set to 5, and then you will actually place 16 souls in the soul cache. So that is only for a single-player game. The rest of the games, there are no souls in the soul cache. So, as for the spark dial, you get 5 turns if you're in a 1-player game. You get, I'm going the wrong way, 4 turns if you're in a 2-player game, 3 turns in a 3-player game, and 2 turns in a 4-player game. And then so you'll set that accordingly, and you will place it right here on the dial. Then you will take every matching figure that is correspondent to the type of characters, and you'll just place them somewhere on the bonfire tile. Now I'm gonna kind of speed this up because a lot of the setup actually does come with the bonfire tile. So the game actually comes with a huge stack of common cards, and you can tell they're common because they will all have this icon right up here. Every single one of these will have this icon. So you will grab all of these, and then you will grab the icons of the corresponding players. You'll grab the treasure cards for the corresponding characters. So what you will be looking for is the common treasure icon with their symbol. I am playing with the warrior. His symbol is an axe. So you will grab their 5 cards, and you will shuffle those into the common treasure decks. And so if you're playing with 4 people, you will grab all of the cards with the white symbol on them, and then shuffle those in. And then you will actually take this stack right here, and you will place it right here on the bonfire tile. And this is kind of a way to just keep all the treasures in one place. Next, depending on your main boss, in my example I have chosen the Titanite demon, you will actually take a couple things. You will find his dial, his health dial. So there's the dial for the Titanite demon. His health is a max of 22, so you can already set that if you want. And then you will locate his items, his items if you beat him, and then they all match like their back, which can all be found in the rulebook. In like the components, actually before the components page, you will actually find all the symbols to the warriors and kind of what these backs look like. So this is the back for the Titanite demon. Then you will find his behavior cards. So they'll match his back, and they'll all look the same. And then you will look for the one that has his information on it. So ignore all of that right now. The only thing that you're going to have to look for are these right here. These are your encounter types or difficulty leading up to this mini boss. So 1 with 1 soul on it is like the intermediate, or not the beginner, and then 3 is intermediate, and then the one with the 0 is expert. So that is all the information you're going to need for setup. And what that means is you're actually going to, here are the decks right down here, you're actually going to be looking for these decks that match those symbols. So here is the beginner one. On the Titanite demon, it shows that I need one beginning one, and then I need 3 of the intermediate and 0 of the expert. So you'll take the decks that you'll need, shuffle them, and choose one of them. You're not going to look at it. And then, so here's the beginning. All the easiest encounter cards will always go nearest the bonfire. So in this case, it's actually going to go somewhere in here. So somewhere like, I'll just put it right here. So it's going to go face down. And then I need 3 of the intermediate. So you'll shuffle these, and then you'll choose 3, and they're going to go on the remaining tiles. Basically how it's going to go, let's say I did have a expert one. Let's say I did have to have one of these. That would go in the furthest tile from the bonfire. But in this case, let me put these weapons away. Those just get placed somewhere that makes sense. And that's all the encounters you're actually going to have until you have to fight the main boss. For this setting, you will never have to look through these decks again, because in Dark Souls, the enemies always respawn in the same way. Basically, those encounters, that's referring to, you know, what you're going to be fighting over and over and over. Now, one last thing that you're going to have to set aside is you're going to have to set aside the treasure items that have this symbol at the bottom. Basically, these are your legendary items. So anything with red at the bottom, you're going to set that whole deck aside. And then you're also going to set aside these transparent items that correspond to the class that you have. So in this case, in a single player game, I will be looking for the warrior symbol, which is the axe, and his transparent. You know it's transparent whenever it has a blue up at the top and white around. So there's his 5 cards. These will get set off to the side as well. And then everything, I mean, you kind of set up the game almost as you go. So that is the initial setup for the board. Now I'm going to show you what it is for the player board. Okay, so this is what the player board will typically look like for the average player. You will take whatever class you want to play. There is warrior, herald, assassin, and knight. I've chosen the warrior because he's actually my favorite. Him and the knight, those 2 are my favorites. What you're going to do is you're going to take their base items, and you can tell what these are. They're going to be kind of with the treasures. Ooh, they're treasures. They're going to have this icon their icon on the back. So the warrior's is the axe, so he has a round shield, northern armor, and the battle axe. And you're going to set them up that correspond to their inventory. So this symbol right here means that is, you know, a place for one of his hands. So you can hold 2 weapons, you can hold 2 shields, I guess, or you can hold a 2-handed weapon. In this case, how you're going to find that out, and I'll explain this a little bit later whenever I show how to get treasure. This icon right here means that, hey, that is a one-handed item. So you can place those in any order you want. So I usually do battle axe on the right, or weapon on the right, and shield on the left. And then you have your armor. So this symbol right here, if it'll focus, right there, that's the armor symbol, and that's going to go right there where the armor symbol is. This up here is going to correspond, it's basically a sheath. That's where extra weapons and stuff can go if you collect them on the way, because you can swap in and out of items. These down here, right under that is for weapon and armor upgrades, which I'll show you later. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to take these, you're going to take 4 white cubes and you're going to place them right under his, or right in the slots for his base stats. So the warrior, for example, has strength 16, dexterity 9, intelligence 8, and faith 9. And then I'll explain leveling up later, but that's where you're going to put those. Then you're going to take the estus flask and you're going to place that right where it's supposed to go on the estus flask. You're also going to take this medallion, and that is to represent, hey, he can do his ability. That allows you to use your ability. Each character has their own. The warrior's is Berserk Charge. Once per spark during his activation, the warrior may move 1 node without spending stamina. The next range 0 attack he makes costs 0 stamina and gains symbols. That means nothing to you right now, but whenever I explain kind of how a typical round works, it'll make more sense. And last, you're going to add this coin, and this coin is going to go, let me see if I can get it to focus on it. I can't, there we go. You're going to take this coin and you're going to place it right there where the coin goes, and that symbolizes that, hey, that's kind of your luck. You can flip it, not flip it, sorry. You can spend it to re-roll 1 die. Any die that you roll, you can spend it. The estus flask you can use on your turn to heal your stamina and your health, which of course I'll explain later. The last slot, which I haven't explained, is Ember. Ember you get if you happen to find it while exploring or getting treasure, but if you do, it'll tell you to immediately discard it and grab a Ember token, in which you will then place it right here where the Ember goes. So if he was Embered, that would get placed right there, and then it'll eventually go away. So you can place any of these really however you want, as long as it corresponds to the slots that it's supposed to. And that is setting up the player's board. Okay, so now I'm going to be telling you how a typical round, it's not called a round, it's called a spark, how a typical encounter works. As a group, so in this case it is a 1-player game, but let's say I was playing with 4, you don't individually all just move in, you all move as a group, or not at all. So whenever you actually go in, so whenever you're starting the game, you'll move from the bonfire tile over into a adjacent tile. Whenever you move in, how you move and how a lot of this game movement kind of works is based on these nodes, which are these right here. The yellow nodes are basic nodes. That's where most people are going to move, and they have nothing to do with anything for setup. The red ones are spawn nodes. That's where the enemies are going to spawn whenever you jump in, and the purple ones are terrain nodes. That's really all you need to know. The cards will tell you everything. So whenever you go to move into any tile, so let's say I was moving into here to here, you move into entry nodes, which are the basic nodes that are adjacent to the door or the wall. Adjacency works just like you think it would. So if I was here right now, this node's adjacent, that node is adjacent, that's adjacent, that's adjacent, and that's adjacent. So I can move here or here. And in a 4-player game, there is a limit. There is, or not in a 4-player game, just in general, it'll affect you in a 4-player game. Each node does have a node limit, which is three models, not just 3 players or 3 enemies, 3 models. So if it was me and 2 other characters, an enemy could come in, and that's called a push, which I'll explain in a sec. But just so you know, whenever you go to setup, you can't all cluster with 4 people on one node. 3 could go there, and another could go off on his own, or 2 and 2, or yeah, that's pretty much your only options. So he's going to jump in, and then what you'll do is you will flip the encounter card, which this is the hollowed cave. So this is going to say what type of enemy is going to spawn on these nodes right here, and then what type of terrain is going to spawn on those types of nodes here. So in this case, all of them are the same in the hollowed cave. They all have the same, which are basically the hollowed soldiers. So you're going to grab their model and place them corresponding to where they should go. So 2 hollowed soldiers are going to go right here on the node with the 1 sword, and then the 3rd one is going to be placed on the one with the cross sword. So basically it's going to be like that. And then you will look at the terrain. So it looks like a barrel is going to be going on that terrain symbol right there, which is actually over here. And then this is a treasure chest. So a treasure chest is going to go right there. Now you might be, and then this you can kind of set off to the side, to the back, because that will always be the encounter for that tile for this thing until you fight the main boss, or until you fight the mini boss, sorry. So then what does the treasure chest and the barrel do? Well, barrel blocks move. Well, treasure chest actually blocks movement. Barrels cost a stamina to go into and break. So if you actually were to go all the way over there somehow, you could spend a stamina, go into it, and bust it. And then you'll flip it over to indicate that it is busted, and then you can walk on it or through it. Now, once that is set up, then the round or the encounter begins. How an encounter works is that all enemies go first. So in a 4-player game, all the enemies will always go first. Every single one of them. But so what that means is you are actually going to be looking for their icon. There are 6 types of enemies, and you're going to be looking for the one that matches their symbol. So this is just a poor example because that encounter had all of the same types, but there are encounters that will have multiple types. So you'll grab all of them, and then so this is the hollow soldier. Then and so now it's a good time to explain how they react and how they activate. So here is a typical encounter card or a typical enemy card. What you're going to see on here is this is their threat level, that's their hit points, that's their symbol, that's their dodge challenge, this is their resistance. The left side, the darker side, is their physical attack resistance, and the white is their magical attack resistance. This right here is their range, so you can see with the weapon, the 0 means they have to be in your spot. This is how they'll move, and this is who they'll attack. So this symbol right here means they're going to move 1 space closest to the person, the person who is nearest to them. So in the node closest to them. It means they're going to attack for 4 damage to the person that's in the closest node. So in case of the hollow soldier, it's whoever's going to be in their spot. What this means is that every single attack from every single enemy, including the mini boss and including the main boss, they have static damage. They don't roll dice. They don't really have modifiers. So you always know how much damage they're going to do. So you can place this to the side. And then, so in this case, they're all going to move 1 space towards the person which is closest. So if these 2 were to move in here, like that, that means that there is now 3 people to a node. So whenever this one goes to move, someone is going to get pushed. And in this case, it's actually going to be the character. The character will get pushed into a node that's actually furthest away from the pushing, model. And since I can't go back, I would just go right there. And that's the enemy's move, because they cannot attack because I am now out of range. It should be noted that you can never ever leave an encounter. Like, I can't begin to lose this encounter and then run back to the bonfire and be safe. You have to, either you beat the encounter or you don't. So, that is the enemy turn. All enemies go, and then after the enemies, only one hero goes. Now this is very important. In a 4-player game, at the very first encounter, there is a token, which is the first player token, that will dictate the turn order. So the very first encounter, all players choose who is going first. So all enemies go, then one hero goes. And let's just say it's the warrior. Then after the warrior goes, then all enemies will go, and then the person clockwise to the starting player, which in this case was the warrior, let's say it's the knight will go, then all enemies, then the herald, then the enemies, then the assassin. That's just an example of how it could go. So I want to make that very, very clear that all enemies will get to go, and then only one player can go. So in this case, 1-player game doesn't really affect it. Multiple players, it does. Then here's what happens on the player's turn. They can do 3 things. One, well, the first thing that they don't really do is they will take this token. This is the aggro token, and this matters for some enemies. They will target people who have this token, and it'll show a skull symbol. Others will be, hey, who's closest to me, or who's adjacent within my range. So you'll take this and you'll place it. I'll just place it right there on the player board. And then they can do 3 things. 1, they can move. For free, they can move, to an adjacent spot. So I can move into here and push one of them out. I can move up here. I can move over here. Then, for additional stamina, I can run. Now, this is a good time to explain how the stamina bar works. I'm just going to push all this stuff off the board, off the player board. Right down here, you have 10 cube slots. On the left side, you will be placing black cubes. This is going to indicate that you are taking stamina. Black cubes are stamina, red cubes are damage. So, for an additional stamina per additional node, you can run. So if I wanted to, I can move up here for free and then spend 3 stamina to go 1, 2, 3. I could run all the way over there, and that could be my turn. So I can definitely get out of their way if I wanted to. That would cost 3 stamina. I would then, these are probably all going to slide out, but I'll just kind of, there we go. So that's kind of how it would look. I'd place 3 cubes there. That means I have 3 stamina. Then, here's the dangerous part though. I can, once this fills up, so let's say I use 9 stamina and take 1 damage, your character dies. So you have to be careful about how much stamina you're going to take to do certain maneuvers versus the damage you might take. So that is that. Oops, I hit the thing. But let's say I'm not going to do that. I'm obviously going to jump in here and push 1 out. And remember, it gets pushed, in the node furthest away from the one that's pushing. Then, other than moving, you can attack. That's one of the second things you can do. How attacking works. You will look at the weapons that you have. In this case, at the beginning of the game, he only has his battle axe. Now, this stuff here, that only indicates, hey, what stats do I have to be able to wield this? Obviously, my strength starts at 16. I don't need, so that beats a 14, and I don't need anything and anything else so I can hold this. So, down here, these 2 in these spots here, those are my 2 attacks. In the brackets, the number indicates how much stamina it takes to use that attack, and this indicates how many dice I will roll. So for 0 stamina, I can roll 2 dice. It's 0 range, so I have to be in the spot. I am to do that. Or for 2 stamina, I can roll 2 dice. Focus, you dumb bitch. Really? There we go. For 2 stamina, I can roll 2 dice, and this symbol right here with the solid black with that node around it, that means it will hit every model in except players. There's no friendly fire. Enemies don't attack enemies. Players don't attack players. So it'll hit every enemy in that node. So obviously that's what I'm going to do. I spent no stamina to move in there because it's adjacent. I'm going to spend 2 stamina to use that attack. So I'm going to be taking 2 black dice. 2 black dice, and I'm going to roll them. So your chances of missing are slim. There's only 1 blank on a black die, but the highest damage it'll do is 2 swords. So I'm going to roll, and I dealt 1 damage. So this was what the result was. So what you will do to determine if you dealt any damage is you will look at the enemy that you're attacking. You will look at their resistance. In this case, it was a 1. So I only dealt 1 damage, his resistance is 1, he takes no damage. But let's say I rolled better than that. You know, let's say I rolled better than that. Let's say I rolled 2 damage. So he has a resistance of 1, so that's 2 damage minus 1, that's 1 damage. His health is only 1, so they would actually die. And that's how combat works. Every item that you get, you will look at how much you roll. Yay! There we go. There's an authentic roll. Then you'll compare it to the resistance. Physical resistance. Where's the weapon? So anything other, this is all, most weapons are physical. Most of the time you will be looking at their physical resistance. Some weapons do have, basically right next to there, is a solid yellow circle, and what that means it is a magical attack. When you attack with magic items or do a magical attack, you compare it to their resistance of on the right, the white spot. You compare it to their resistance. So let's say I did roll that well. So that's 2 damage. That would actually, and remember because of that symbol right there, which means I hit every enemy in the spot, that means they would both actually be dead. And then you just kind of do that over and over and over. So the next round, the enemy would go, he would move in. Nope, actually this is a good example. So, just gonna slide that over. So he's gonna move toward 1 space towards the person in the nearest node. There is a tiebreaker, and I should mention that because if there are 2 people, let's say there was a person here, and let's say there was a person here, where would he go? Well, there's multiple tiebreakers. One is obviously whoever's closest. If there's 2 people that are close, it's whoever actually has the aggro marker. So on your turn, if you are the most recently activated, you will have the aggro marker. So let's say the warrior had it, he would then go after the warrior, not the second person. Well, it is possible in a 3 or 4 player game that none of you will have this. So let's say the assassin had it and he's way over there. So this one's moving. He decides, okay, well, which one do I attack now? On each player's board, there is this number right here. That number, that is your threat level. And so what that means is that, or your taunt, not your threat level, your taunt. So whoever has the highest taunt is who the enemy will go. And there are no ties in that. So I think the warrior actually has the highest. So he's going to move there, and then he's going to attack the person nearest to him in his range of 0, so they have to be in the spot of 4. So this is a good time to explain how do you defend. Well, if you have a shield, in this case the warrior has northern armor and a round shield. Down at the bottom there are some icons. So down here with the shield icon, that is physical resistance. That is your physical resistance. So in this case, I would roll 2 black dice for my physical resistance. On the right, in the circle, the white circle, is your magical resistance. How many dice you would roll for that. So obviously he's better at defending against physical attacks than magical attacks. And then right next to that is your dodge. I'll explain dodging after I explain defending. So the hollow soldier with swords, that means it's a physical attack. There are some enemies, let me see if I can find them. If their attack looks like this, that means it's a magical attack. Also, this icon here means he's going to move away from the person with aggro and attack the person with aggro. So that blaze, that whatever fire thing, that's a magical attack. The hollow soldier attacks physical. The warrior has 2 black dice to defend against physical. And remember, the enemies always have a static attack, so I have to try and at least get a 4. I did not. I rolled a 2 and a 0. But, so what you do is you take 4 minus whatever you rolled, so 2, and that's how much damage I'm taking. So I would take 2 red cubes and place them on the right of this chart. So right now I have 2 stamina and 2 damage. And remember, if they ever meet, this ever gets filled up, the warrior dies. So, so that was that. Then, one thing I didn't mention, actually, sorry. Another thing you can do, instead of, it's like, oh, I don't really like my odds of rolling, I'm going to try and dodge. Now, what this means is that you will take 1 stamina, dodging always takes 1 stamina, you will then move to an adjacent node, you move always, you will always at least get to move, and then you dodge. Now, dodging is a risky thing, it is an all or nothing type of thing. On your items, remember right there with the arrow and the weapon, that means that's your dodge. So with my items, I only get 1 die to roll for dodge. If these all had a 1, I'd get to roll 3 dice. So since I am only rolling a 1, I am going to get 1 dodge die, which is this green. What you will do is you will look at the enemy's attack, its dodge challenge. So what you need to do is you need to roll an arrow or results equal to or higher than this number. So obviously if this was a 2, I'm only rolling 1 die, I cannot dodge their attacks. So I have a 50-50 chance to try and roll that. So I did not. That's typical. So what happens if you fail? If you fail, you take all the damage. So if you fail, instead of the 2 damage I would have taken, I would actually take 4. Now what's the plus side to that? The plus side is that, let's say I succeeded. That means I would have actually taken no damage. So you could be getting attacked by 10 damage, let's say. Try the dodge and succeed and take no damage. Or you could try the dodge, fail, take 10 damage and immediately die. So that is the risk to dodging. And remember, that will be found right here with the dodge symbols. One last thing is that whenever it's the start of your turn, if you have any stamina, you will regain 2 stamina. And then you'll go your turn, and you'll go until everyone dies. So in this case, I'd move, I would attack. My attack is, well, it's going to take 2 stamina, but no, I'm not going to do that because I don't need to hit everything. So no stamina to roll 2 dice. 2 damage, his resistance is 1, so he is actually dead. Yay! Now, what happens if you die? In a more than 1 player game, if 1 person dies, which means all that gets filled up, you restart. Essentially what you do, if you have any souls in your soul cache, if you have any souls there, you're going to collect them all and you're going to place them on the spot where you died. So let's say the warrior died, you would take all the souls and place them there. To collect them, all you have to do is just move there, and then you get them all back. So that's how you can lose an encounter. Also, you'll take your spark and you'll actually, and you'll actually move it down. Now, treasure chests. This is probably the last thing until I explain mini bosses. The treasure chest, after succeeding an encounter, actually two things happen. After succeeding an encounter, everyone will heal. So let's say I had, you know, damage, damage. Let's say I was one thing away from dying. If you succeed an encounter, you heal all your damage and all your stamina. So you're fresh, you're wiped clean. You don't have to go and rest at a bonfire. Then, if there are any treasure chests, you basically will flip it to indicate that it's now open, and then you will draw two items or two cards from the treasure deck, and you can immediately equip them if anyone can hold it. So, in this case, I got a Silver Knight straight sword, and this means that you have to have 20s across the board to be able to wield this. Obviously, the warrior does not have that starting out, because his starting out is 16, 9, 8, and 9, so he would need to get all the way to tier 2. So you can get that, no one can wield it. All it's going to do is get placed right here in inventory, and then you can look at the second item. In this case, I would need an intelligence of 15, my intelligence is 8, but for the warrior, he just needs to level up once to be able to wield it. So that may be something to think about. If no one can wield anything or equip anything, they just get placed in that slot and you're good to go. And that's an encounter. Next, I'm actually going to explain... Oh, nope, I did forget something. After an encounter, you might be thinking, well, how the hell do I get souls? You will get souls per player. You'll get 2 souls per player if you succeed in an encounter. So, in a 1-player game, you're only going to get 2 souls, but you start with 16. 2-player game, you're going to get 4 souls. 3-player game, 6. 4-player game, 8 per encounter. So, before you go fight the mini-boss, you can do each tile. So in a 4-player game, you will actually get 32 souls total if you do all 4 tiles and succeed at all of them. So that's the case. You obviously cannot go back and forth to rest and then just keep doing this one to just to grind souls, because you only have a limited number of times you can actually rest. So that's that. And that is an encounter. Now I'm going to explain how you upgrade your character. Okay, so whenever you are going to upgrade your character, you can freely move through any tile that has a face-up encounter card. So like if I was on a further tile, I can move through here and just go in here. Then you can rest or upgrade. You'll take the spark dial and you'll mark it down. So if I was in a 1-player game, it would be 5 and then it would go down to 4. Then there are 2 things you can do. One of those things is you can visit the Firekeeper. That is how you are going to upgrade your character. So let's say I just beat that 1 encounter and then I'm coming here to upgrade. I now have 18 souls. Let's pretend. I don't want to actually place them. But you do have a 5 and an 8, 3, and 1s. So I have 18 souls. Well, the Firekeeper allows me to level up. Oh, also, if you use any of your items, those all get flipped. So if I use my estus flask, if you go to the bonfire, that gets, you can get it again. If you use your medallion to use your ability, you can do that again. If you use your reroll, you get that again. So, how do you level up? Well, everyone's at their base stat. To go from tier 1, to go from base to tier 1 costs 2 souls per slot. So to upgrade all of them would cost 8 souls. To go from tier 1 to tier 2 cost 4 souls. So to go from tier 1 all the way to tier 2, you would add both those together. So it's 4 plus 2, so that's 6 times 4, that's going to be 24 souls. To upgrade all the way up to tier 3 is 8 souls. So I believe that is 32. Yep, so you're going to need, well actually sorry, it's not. If you're going all the way from base, but yeah, if you're all on tier 2 to go up to all the way to tier 3, it's going to be 32 souls. But if you're going from base, all the way, let's just say strength, from base all the way to tier 3 is going to be 14 souls, because it's 8 plus 4, which is 12, plus 2, which is 14. So 14, which is 16, 4, 64? Is that right? Is that right? I think that's right. So you're going to need 64 souls total to upgrade all the way, to max out. So that is what you can do at the Firekeeper. Then you can go to the blacksmith, and you don't really have to move around, at least I don't. And there's a couple things you can do there. One, you can move items around, and then most likely what you're going to do, this is where you will equip items. So if you have items over here while you're in an encounter, you can't just grab them. You can't just be like, oh, I have this now. So one thing you can do is for 1 soul, you can draw the top card of the treasure deck. Oh look, I got a heal aid for 1 soul, and then you will basically look at, okay, can anyone wield this? So we need a 13 faith to be able to do this and add this. Costs one hand to put it in, but it has 3 range. Then let's see if I can find a 2-handed weapon. There we go. A 2-handed weapon. Let's say we spend another soul and we draw this. So the sorcerer's staff. Remember, yellow symbol, that means it's a magical attack. The colors just mean the colored dice that you're going to roll. So to have the sorcerer's staff, I would need 30 intelligence, which for the warrior to wield that, he'd need to be all the way max, and then 15 strength, which he can actually hold. So we would just need to buff his intelligence. So that is that. Now, this symbol right here means that is a 2-handed weapon. Earlier, he had a shield and a sword here. To hold this, he would need to place this in here or here, doesn't matter which, and have the other slot empty. That makes sense. So that is that. If you don't find anything that anyone can wield, they just go there, and then you can upgrade. Now, there are some items in here. Let me see if I can find some. And of course, I'm not gonna be able to, because life. Okay, there's one, and that's a weapon upgrade. Yeah, I need to find two types of upgrades. Weapon. Okay, here we go. So, other things you can find in the treasure chest are weapon upgrades. Your beginning items do not allow you to have any upgrades. The one last thing I didn't show you was this right here. So here's your defense, that's your dodge, this is your upgrade, the little block. Other items, like the sorcerer's staff, for example, can hold 2 upgrades. So it's going to range from 0, 1, or 2. Your armor also will have that same, so 0, 1, or 2. So you can find 2 types of upgrades. This right here means that is an armor upgrade, so the armor symbol with the arrow. So what that'll do, if your armor can hold it, let me see if I can find, yep, right here, sure. This is armor. Is it? Yeah, it's armor. Sorry, I was looking at the range. So if you had this as your armor, it can hold 2 upgrades. All you would do is you would take the armor upgrade and then you would place it underneath like that to indicate that, just so you can read what it has. So that's what these additional slots were. Same for weapons. If you have a weapon upgrade, it's going to show the weapon or a sword symbol with an arrow. So that means that it's a weapon upgrade. So you could actually equip this heavy gem to the sorcerer's staff and then place it like you did with the armor, like that, like so. So it does have room for 2. Now, here's the difference. Any upgrade, any weapon upgrade that you attach to a weapon, you cannot remove it. So if I swapped out weapons, if I swapped out the sorcerer's staff for another weapon, this upgrade would have to go with it. That is not the case for armor upgrades. Let's say I had the master's attire. If I wanted to swap it out for another piece of armor, I could take this off and add it to the other set of armor. So if you're ever swapping out items that you don't want to keep in your inventory, that's why your inventory has some weapon slots, because they have to go with it. If you're swapping weapons out for stuff in here, and so you're putting this in the inventory, it's a good note to just kind of maybe put it sideways so that if you go to take it again, then you know what's coming with it. And that's what you do. That's what you do at the bonfire. So you can either get some items and equip them, or level up. So now I'm going to show you what it is like to actually fight the mini-boss. So after you make it to the final tile that has this fog door, whenever you beat the encounter in here, so in this case it would be just that stuff. That's actually a sentinel, and then that's a gravestone, and that's another barrel. Once you beat that encounter, then you guys can decide to go through the fog door. And if you do, you'll actually remove everything, or if you have room, just place them. You can remove everything, and then you can add the mini boss tile. So you can either place it on top of this, or if you have room, set it to the side, or if you want, you can deconstruct everything and just place this, because this is the only tile you'll use for the mini boss. And I'm going to show you how a mini boss works, and how essentially a main boss works. I'm not going to show you exactly the main boss because they work, but the bosses work the same way. Okay, so this is the setup for a mini boss, especially for a one player. So one player is fighting in this case, the Titanite demon. The mini boss will start, first of all, remember setting up just the tile with just the regular skull. The mini boss will start on that tile, and if you notice, the mini-boss has an X on their base. The mini-boss and the main bosses all have this X. This is for very specific attacks in which they attack in some arcs. So some attack may target, his front arc, and then his left and right arc. So in this case, if you were looking at it like this is his front arc, back arc, left arc, and then right arc. So how you position them is you try to have the front arc, as centered as possible to an adjacent node. So kind of like so. So this node right here is pretty much in the middle of that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take their information card. Remember earlier whenever you decided the encounter types? Now everything else matters. This is going to give you information. So right up at the top is his health. Each mini boss and main boss has a dial, so you'll kind of set it to their health. Now I need to point out this is the difficult part. This is set at 22 and as centered for his health as possible, but you can see 21. So as you start to go down, 19 and 17 are cut off. So let's say he had 18 health. 19 and 17 are cut off, but they're still visible. So you got to be careful with the damage. So you'll set it to his max health. You'll take their item cards and you'll set them off to the side. And then you'll take their behavior deck, the deck that matches their symbol, and you will look for the ones that have this symbol right here. That is their fired up symbol. So you'll take each card that has that on it, in this case it's just 3, and you'll set those off to the side. What that means is that whenever the boss gets to a certain health, one of those cards gets added to their behavior deck. Now, in this case the Titanite demon, whenever he gets down to 10 health, you'll take one of those cards, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail later. Next, with the remaining cards, in this case it is 5 cards, you will look at this icon right here that you can't see, that you can now see. So that's a 4. This is how many cards his behavior deck will be constructed of. So since there's 5, you will randomly take one out and just set that off. It will never be used, so it kind of randomizes it each time you fight him. Then you'll take the remaining cards and you'll shuffle them, and then you will place them face down. This is his behavior deck, and remember, just like a regular encounter, enemy goes first, then player, then one player. In this case it's just one player, but if there's 4, then 1, then the enemy, then back, it's going to go back and forth. Luckily it's just one person, so he's going to go, then we go, then he goes, and it just goes like that. So just like the other enemies, that's his resistance to physical attacks, that's his resistance to magical attacks, and then they have an ability. So Titanite Construct. If the Titanite demon suffers 3 or more damage from one attack roll, reduce the damage by 1, so he's a little bit tougher to kill. And that's all you're gonna be looking at. So that just gets placed like that, and then or somewhere near, and then the encounter is ready to start. What you're going to do is you're going to take the top card and it's going to give you some information. So this right here, this is a vicious swing. This is actually a good example. And every card, I guess I should have said this earlier, every encounter card gets read from left to right. So within one range, he's actually going to turn completely around and attack. So, woo! Because that symbol means he's going to turn completely around. So he's going to do that. And then he's going to attack. So if this was the case, the way I looked at it is the top is his, the arc that's his front, and then you know, back, right, left. So now we are actually facing the correct way. So he hits within one range, anyone on his front, back, and right within one range. No one is there, so he just swung for no reason. Now, you will notice that there is a red here. That means that he is now weak on his left side. So, if we were to go onto his left side, I'm not going to do the stamina and stuff, but you know, I could move here for free, and then I could run for an additional. And then, since most attacks are going to, that is still technically one range away, because he is on this node. He's just giant. So, if I wanted to be on his weak spot, on his left side, I would run again, so I'd be taking 2 stamina, and you basically press your base against his, in the arc that you want to be in. So, in this case, so if I am like this, if this line right here basically splits, like it's doing, basically separates this node, that means I could run again to his left side or his back side. So because it splits. If I was over here and I wanted to run, I could only run to his left side. So you kind of have to choose which side you want to be on. So if I was here, I could only go there. For example, if I needed to get to his back side, I could run again and basically press right up against him. So that's just how that works. If that splits, you have a choice of which one to go to. So I'm going to go to his weak side. Whenever you're trying to attack the boss, you look at his previous. So if he had other cards, and you look at the topmost card, and you look at if he has any weak spots at the moment. So, since he's weak on his left side, that means whatever damage I'm doing, let's say I'm rolling 3 blue dice, if you're attacking the weak area, you get 1 additional black die. Then you roll, and let's say I rolled a 6. Alright, I rolled 6 damage. That means it's actually going to be 3, and then, so he's going to suffer 3 damage from the attack, but since his Titanite construct, he's actually going to only suffer 2. So if he suffered 2 damage, you would take his dial, and then you would go down to, you would go to 20. I mean, the math is easy enough. Then that's his turn, or that's my turn. Now it's his turn. So all you do is take the top card, and then you just follow it. And then, luckily, the back of the rulebook does have a really good iconography of everything here. So in this case, here's a good example. He is actually going to push. He's doing a lightning bolt. So he's going to push. The range is infinite. To try and dodge this lightning bolt is a 2. The warrior probably can't do it. So he's actually going to push me away before he moves back 1. And so that he's just moving straight back, not moving away from everyone, not moving away from the person with aggro or nearest. He's just moving straight back as he pushes me away. Then he's going to deal 5 damage to the person with the aggro marker. In a 1-player game, that would be just me. So he's going to deal 5 damage to me. I would roll my defense, and then you just keep going back and forth until he dies or you die. Now, an interesting thing. So he did his vicious swing, his lightning bolt. He'd do his tail whip, and then he would do his grab and smash. Once you go through all of the cards in the behavior deck, you do not reshuffle. I repeat, you do not reshuffle. You will take all the cards and you will flip them over. So if this was a discard pile, you would flip it over. And now he's going to do the same attacks over and over and over and over. So you know he's going to do his vicious swing, which means he's going to turn around and then attack, and then his lightning bolt, which means he's going to move back and then attack, and then he's going to do his whatever it was, tail whip, and then his grab. So if you can calculate, you can get out of the way of his attacks or maneuver yourself to be, he's going to do this, so I'm going to get on his weak side. You can do that. The only monkey wrench that's getting thrown in is whenever you deal enough damage to him. So let's say we've dealt enough damage to him, and it also shows on here. Well, actually that's 12, so that's a misprint, but one of these is misprinted. So let's say you dealt, you know, he had 22 damage, you dealt 12 damage. He is now at 10 health. You take one of the heat up cards that you separated earlier. You basically will choose one at random, and then you take his behavior cards, the 4 cards you've been using and getting so used to, you put it in there, and then you shuffle them. So now you have to relearn his attacks all over again, because it's kind of like now they're pissed off, they're in rage. But then you draw it. Oh look, it's his double pulse smash. So that means he's actually going to attack the person in front of him for anyone. He's actually going to attack anyone in that arc. So if I was, actually he would miss me if I was there. But if I was here, that's a good example. If I was there, he has 2 range. Just like earlier, whenever I was moving up, if this line split, that meant I was in his right arc and his front arc, so I can move to either or. It works the same way. I can be attacked because I am somewhat in his front arc, which is where he's attacking. So I would heal, and then he would move back while pushing. Oh, and this icon also means he's going to do this whole thing again. So I'd actually roll twice, and then roll again to make sure I didn't die. I could also try and dodge, but that's for 5 damage. So then you do that, then his grab and smash, tail whip, vicious swing, then lightning bolt, then gets flipped over, then he's going to do his double, and then this goes over and over until you die or he dies. And then that's that. If you kill him, you would take his items, you would take the items that he has specifically for him, which is Titanite and his Titanite catch pole. You will see if anyone can adjust it, equip it, and if they can't, it goes into your inventory, and then you go to the bonfire for free. You get a free rest, you can upgrade, you can do all that. The difference between souls is you get 1 soul per player per sparks left on the bonfire dial. So if they're in a 1-player game, if you never rested, if you never rested, there'd be 5 left. You would get 5 souls for a boss encounter. Remember, non-boss encounters, it was 2 souls per player. In this case, it is depending on how many sparks you have left. So it rewards you for not resting as many times. And that's that. The main boss is literally the same thing, except you take the mini boss tile and the main boss tile, and you put them together, and then the main boss will start up here, and then you have a bigger room. So well, let me kind of move that down. There we go. There we go. So you will take the main boss and then attach it to the mini boss, like that, and then you'll place your people and you'll fight. And if you beat the main boss, you win. That is how you win the game, beating the main boss. But there are a couple things that are different for the setup. After you fight the mini boss, you get a free rest. Then what you're going to do is you're going to basically follow setup completely, start over again with resetting tiles, looking at the main boss's card to determine what encounter cards, and then you're going to take the corresponding classes. You're going to take their transparent cards, and you're going to shuffle those into the deck, into the treasure deck, and then you're going to take these legendary item cards right here, and you're going to shuffle these, and you're going to you're going to take 5 of them, and you're going to shuffle those into the treasure deck. So now players have a chance to get way better items to go fight the main boss. Then you set up, you set all that up. That's the only difference with encounters, fog door, all that. Once you get to the main boss, this is the tile setup, the mini boss tile and the main boss tile. Main boss spawns on there. You remove his heat cards, his behavior cards, and then you fight him. You fight him just like that. And then if you beat him, you win the game. If you lose and you don't have any sparks left, you lose the game. The only main bosses will have their own items, but that is only for a campaign. So that's it. That's how you. That's a main boss and a mini boss encounter. All right, everyone. That was an extensive how to play of Dark Souls, the board game. There were a few things I left out. It's just kind of monotonous kind of things. There are stasis effects that they're their own section in the rulebook. They're very quick to just find. You have frostbite, poison, bleed, and stagger. I think it's stagger or stun. It's stun. You have those four. The cards, the equipment cards, are pretty much self-explanatory. There is another thing at the bottom of some encounter cards. There are basically two spears at the bottom, two yellow spears. And that basically means that there are traps. So you will take the corresponding icons, you know, that have the two spears, and you'll place those on every basic node. And then whenever you go and step on there, you flip it, and it could be a blank, it could be an attack that you have to, you know, damage that you have to dodge or defend against, and then they go away. So that's pretty much it. I don't believe I left anything out. The back of the rulebook does have a very nice iconography page. It explains everything on it. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was very helpful. Go check out the run-through. Go check out the unboxing, I mean, if you want. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you want to support us, you can go ahead and click that link to go to my Patreon account. If you have any suggestions, you can go ahead and click the link in the show notes below to go to my Board Game Geek list. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.